There we go. Okay, so AT for caregivers. What we hope that you take from this is certainly some new tools that maybe you're not using currently, but also just seeing how assistive technology overlaps with many things. So I am facilitating this training today. I'm Kelly Blackwell. I am co-director for the Michigan Assistive Technology program. And Sarah, if you could admit folks, that would be great. My pronouns are she and hers. And then on this slide, we have our 800 number to contact us, and I'll just read that out loud. I use a screen reader, so I'm super into access for all people, but sometimes you're going to hear a pause from me, just simply because I've got my screen reader going in my ear. But the 800 number is 800-578-0280. And then we've got our web address on there, which is mymdrc.org, and that's mymdrc.org. And then also on this slide, we have our MATP logo. And it's an orange background with white writing. And it says Michigan Assistive Technology Program, and it has like a light bulb with a seedling growing in it. That is also in white. So I'm going to move to the next slide. All right, and here we have our MDRC mission, and we like to highlight this for each training that we have because we hope that in all of the things that you attend or services that you receive from our organization, you see this mission woven through everything that we do. It's super important to us. So I'm going to go ahead and read this through. So MDRC cultivates disability pride and strengthens the disability movement by recognizing disability as a natural and beautiful part, of human diversity while collaborating to dismantle all forms of oppression. And then on this slide, we also have the MDRC logo. Okay, and I will move to the next slide. And on here we have what to expect for today's discussion. And the image on this slide, just so that everybody knows, is a checklist, if you will, that has check marks on it. So we're going to go over a brief overview of the Michigan Assistive Technology Program, or MATP. We will define assistive technology. And then Sarah, I think you are unmuted.
Yes.
Did you figure out the waiting room?
There's nobody in the waiting room.
Okay.
But I can see Asian A came over here. I'm keeping an eye on it though.
Okay, cool. And then AT for caregivers and how that overlaps. And then we're going to cover different sort of areas or aspects of life and how AT can be helpful. And then Sarah will be putting at some point the resource guide into the chat for folks to access. And then we hopefully will be having some discussion. So
I'll put the resource guide in right now and then
Perfect.
Also at the end.
Sounds great. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next slide. All right. This is our what is assistive technology. And if you've attended trainings from us before, you've probably seen this, right? And Sarah, if you could mute, there's a lot of background noise. Thank you. So what is assistive technology? Assistive technology is any software, piece of equipment, device that is going to help an individual with a disability or an older adult do the things that they want to be able to do. And another thing that we like to point out is that technology, so think cell phones, think computers, all of those now fancier pieces of technology, they can often make things easier for many people, but assistive technology often makes things possible for people with disabilities. So, and to differentiate this, I like to point out my cell phone. So I have a smartphone, just as many people do, and it's specifically an iPhone. But if I didn't have the screen reader technology built in and using it, I would not be able to use that piece of technology. So as technology, the phone makes my life easier, but the assistive technology piece are the accessibility features that come built into the phone, and then the various apps that I interact with to make that easier for me to do the things that, or to make it possible, I should say, to do the things that I want to do. And then on this slide, we actually have some really low tech options for assistive technology. So we have a doorknob gripping device. And then we have an older adult pictured here that is outside using a walker and what appears to be a sunny day. So what is assistive technology for the Michigan Assistive Technology Program? What does it mean for the Assistive Technology Program, I should say? Each state, as well as a handful of territories across the United States, has an assistive technology program. It's a federally funded program that is a free service for anyone with a disability, for those that support folks with disabilities, or for, organizations and businesses can also access this program. So the federal AT Act says that that people have access to AT information and services. In our case, it's for the whole state of Michigan. And what I like to point out about our program that we are super proud of is that our assistive technology specialists are people with disabilities. So we like to say that it's a program for people with disabilities by people with disabilities. And then on this particular slide, we have the MATP logo pictured. And I've switched to the next slide that just goes a little bit more into detail about our program. So I'll just go through that quickly. The biggest part of our program is the AT demos. So the things that we talk about today, many of the things we have available for demo. And what does that mean? That means we will come to you, you can come to us, and we will demonstrate the different pieces of AT that we have available. And that's often done in people's own home. We have short-term loans available for most of our devices, depending on the availability of our inventory. Many things, probably 99.9% of our inventory is available at a moment's notice for a short-term loan. Some of the things we only have one of, so those are a little bit of a wait. And just depending on the complexity, there's a couple of things that go into that. But generally speaking, folks can borrow devices on short-term loan for up to 30 days. And then we will explore different options with folks beyond that 30-day. And that's an example of that would be with our open-ended loans, which our iPads are especially popular for that. That means that folks can have access to that iPad for longer than the 30-day period. We also offer training and technical assistance, similar to what we're doing with our Tech Tuesdays. That would be a form of our training that we provide under the Assistive Technology Act. And then on this slide, we also have a way to request a demo or a loan of devices. And we have our phone number there, as well as the URL, which also can be found in that resource guide that Shara had shared the link to in the chat. All right, so I want to hear from folks. And if you're on Facebook, we encourage you to come join us in the Zoom platform. But if you have thoughts on The questions I'm about to ask, feel free to share those however you feel comfortable. I want to know what folks think of when they hear assistive technology or AT. And then if folks feel comfortable with sharing what types of AT they currently use, I'd like to hear about that as well. So what kinds of things do you think of when you hear AT? And what do you currently use? What do you love? I mentioned my phone. That's probably, I have a love-hate relationship with that. It works great when it works, and when it doesn't, I get frustrated. But overall, I'm very blessed to have access to a smartphone. Any favorite apps that you use? And as a caregiver, what are some things that you can think of maybe that are helpful for you? And if you can't think of anything, that's fine too. Oh, and then the image on this slide is of a white thought bubble with a pink background.
I was out gardening this weekend and I used our very own garden bench to kneel and push myself up so I wasn't straining my back.
I love that. So Sarah
So
mentioned
handy.
we have this garden bench that doubles as a kneeler. So if you have it where the legs are facing downward, it's a bench that you can sit on while you're gardening. And then if you flip it over, it becomes a kneeler. So the bench on both sides has a padded surface, and then you can use the legs as a way to push yourself up. And then the garden bench actually has a canvas pouch that you can put your garden tools as well. So that's actually one of my favorites. And the other, well, last week when it was nice, I took a few minutes outside of the office and used it to sit and enjoy the sunshine too. So,
And Nicole's in the chat. She says, learning about assistive technology in college, such as CRC with ATP.
yeah. So, Nicole, are you a fellow CRC or working your way toward that? I love meeting CRCs. And for those that are not familiar, that's a certified rehabilitation counselor. And that is
She says she's in progress of Masters of Mental Health.
perfect. Love it. Thank you for joining the field. And ATP, so CRC is certified rehabilitation counselor. And then ATP is a certification that you can receive once you go through some training and take an exam that is a nationally recognized assistive technology professional is what that stands for. All right, so I'm going to move to the next slide. All right, so I wanted to talk about the levels of caregivers that there are, and these are probably obvious, but I think it's worth mentioning. So a lot of family members and friends end up being caregivers, and taking that a step further, I'm gonna skip the middle bullet, but having older adults as caregivers for either their adult children or maybe their grandchildren or whatever that relationship looks like. And then there are certainly direct care workers that are paid for what they do. And I've got a little bit of information in the resource guide from the state of Michigan about direct care workers. There's been a lot of legislation and activity around that particular topic because direct care workers are grossly underpaid. And so there's a lot of movement in that area. Hopefully very soon seeing a lot of things come out of that. So. And then the image on this slide is just, I believe, 2 arms that are visible holding hands. So I'm going to move on to the next slide. All right, I really wanted to talk about how the different types of AT that I'm going to be highlighting overlap. So how not only they can help the caregiver, but also the person with the disability, thus sort of creating this symbiotic relationship of helping one another. So the person with the disability can have more autonomy or, make decisions for themselves, but also help the caregiver. So we're certainly going to talk about different ways that AT can help with body mechanics and things like that for caregivers, but then how access to these assistive technology devices can not only help the person with a disability, but also the caregiver. And then the image on this slide is of a Venn diagram, so two circles overlapping. All right, so now we get into the nitty-gritty of the AT itself. I wanted to start with AT for emergency prep because this is an area that sometimes gets overlooked, but is super important. So looking at when you're caregiving for someone or even for yourself, what types of plans do you have in place for emergencies, whether that be a natural disaster, um, if there's a fire, flood, whatever it might be, what things do you have in go mode, if you will, for when those types of things happen? So here's just a list of some things that can be helpful. Creating a plan or a strategy to make sure that you have those things mapped out with the individual. An emergency go kit. So for that individual that you are caring for, what are some things that would be super difficult to live without if they had to be displaced from their home for several days or weeks or even months? So that could be medication. That's kind of the first thing that folks think about. But if they have a mobility disability, what kinds of things are going to be helpful? And what can you kind of just have ready so you don't even have to think about it to get out safely? And think about consideration of DME, which that's durable medical equipment. Um, if a fire happens in the home, for example, do those firefighters know that an individual is going to need that power chair to be able to move freely outside of that home? And of course, safety first, but we've talked with firefighters in the past, and that's something that definitely gets overlooked. And some things that can go in your emergency go kits would be extra batteries, pill cases, waterproof items can be super helpful. And then there's a service called Smart 911, and that is a web-based service that allows an individual to create a profile for 911 or emergency professionals. So before they get to your home, a profile would pop up about you that you have created that lets them know, okay, so I'll use my profile as an example. So they know that when they come to my home, I am someone who is blind and could require a little bit of assistance. And it allows you to put into your profile as much information as you put into it. So you can list number of people in the home, medications, just different things like that. And then it's important to have accessible smoke and CO or carbon monoxide detectors, whether that be a flashing light for those who are deaf or hard of hearing. They've got the smart detectors now that you can link and have a little bit more access to if you're someone like myself that prefers interacting with things to set them up electronically with accessible means. So, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, but things that work with like Alexa and things like that. And then pictured on this slide is an emergency backpack that is, I think it's the color of red. and it is waterproof. And for some reason, it's not reading me anything else. So we'll move along to the next slide. All right, as caregivers, and for anyone really, so again, that overlap of what works well for many can work for caregivers. So super important to think about our mental health and what that can mean as we're caring for others. If we're not taking care of ourselves, we are not likely to be the best version of ourselves, to be great caregivers. So on this slide, I have a few examples of assistive technology, most of which we have in our inventory. And Sarah, if you want to cue up the video about the Luminet eyeglasses, those are like, so if you think of the seasonal affective disorder where you need sunlight, we have an alternative to the lamp, and they are actually glasses that you wear, and you can actually wear them over prescription glasses, which is cool. There's apps like Breathe to Relax. It takes you through how to do that diaphragmatic breathing and really focus on ways to calm using breathing techniques. We have a sleep bar. It's a speaker that is intended to lay under your pillow so that you don't disturb a partner. And then you can listen to podcasts. You pair it with your device. You can listen to podcasts, music, whatever is helpful for you to get to sleep. Weighted blankets are super popular for folks that may experience some anxiety, for example, or need some sensory input. So you as the caregiver, you could have the full-on weighted blanket while you're sleeping, or they make the lap size weighted blanket. So if you need to just have a moment to yourself, you can use it whilst in a seated position. It's not as full as the full blanket.
Hi, Kelly, this is
Yes.
Sarah. Are you able to make me host to share the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the companion pets, those are, we never thought they would be as popular as they are, but they are widely popular. So if you are a caregiver and maybe you have allergies, maybe you just don't have the time to take care of a pet, but you want that companion piece of having a pet. These are robotic pets that we have that you can interact with. So we have cats and dogs of varying breeds, I'll say. And then the image on this slide is of a person seated behind a computer screen and they are meditating. So let me go over here. I'm going to do that, and then you should be able to, can you share now, Sarah?
It says you're still the host. It's not letting me share.
Okay. Okay. There you go.
Got it. All right. Can everybody hear that?
No. There should be a box where you can check share sound as well.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. And I'm still not hearing sound.
Oh. I'm not sure why. It is captioned for those able to.
Let me go ahead and stop share and I'll see if I can do it from mine, Sarah.
Okay.
I don't know what is going on today, but now I can't share. And I tell you what, we have experienced all of the technical.
I know. Try it now, Kelly. I clicked on multiple participants can share.
Oh, I love it.
Equal mark
You're
double
gonna
menu.
hear Jaws speaking very fast.
Leaving menus. Zoom. PowerPoint slideshow app. Leaving menus. Mission Zoom. Live transcription document. One word.
And then I'm gonna
Document.
go
HTTPS
down
slash.
and I've
Alexa
saved
show over
the
visual. Blank.
links. Come on, why are you not? Okay, so fun story, folks. My screen reader just stopped reading to me. So, I tell you what, I don't know what is happening. I have no control over what folks are seeing now, and I can't even get back to the meeting. I super apologize for this. I don't know what is
Menu. Music currently
happening
unmuted. Alt plus A button. Escape.
to our
Audio settings button drop down. Music currently unmuted. Alt plus A
tech,
button.
but so with these glasses, I'll just explain so we don't waste more time. You can wear them.
Alt S.
You can, there's 3 different settings on them for different light intensity. And as I mentioned, you can wear them over prescription glasses if need be. So what we especially liked about these is usually with the lamp, the sun lamp, you're sort of just in one position, right? You can't really move around. And these give you that same benefit, but being able to have a little bit more mobility as you're moving around. Now, me as someone that has vision loss, there are indicators on there for like the battery level, for example, that don't offer any audio cue. So I would just have to make sure that it regularly stays charged. But for the one that we have in our inventory, it does charge by way of USB. So just to let you know that. And then I'm going to switch back over to the PowerPoint if I can. One moment. Oh, we don't want to share sound anymore because you don't need to hear Jaws. There we go. All right. All right, community living, super important for everyone. And these are just things to think about as a caregiver. Lighting. If you're someone, maybe you're an older adult and you found that you need a little bit of extra lighting to be able to do things. Lighting it can be a safety issue, right? So just making sure that you keep that in mind when you are doing different things. Looking at trip hazards. Certainly we don't want the individual with the disability to fall, but we don't want you as the caregiver to have injury from a trip hazard. So I have very few rugs in my home, just as an example. This would be, it's obvious for everyone, but thinking more of the person with a disability, but using the stove and oven. If you are a caregiver and you have an injury due to using the stove or oven, then that could hinder your ability to care for someone else. One of the really cool but super basic things that we have in our inventory are the oven rack burn protectors and the oven rack push pull. And these are just simply made from silicone. They attach to your oven rack and make it so that when you're reaching into the oven, it creates a silicone barrier on the edge so that I can't tell you how many times I've kind of burnt my wrist or kind of my forearm a little bit just by accidentally touching that oven rack. So super basic. I mean, we're talking under, I think it's actually about $10 for those. Reminders, super important. I've linked a really basic, it's one of my favorite. Again, it's a $10 item. In the resource guide, it's called the Do Not Forget Door Organizer, and it literally hangs on your door. It has a cutout for it to hang on the knob, and it's bright red, and it says in big letters, "Do not forget." But it has pockets built in. So if you're having to run out the door, or if there's things that are super important that you need to have access to quickly, you can put it all right there. So your phone, your keys, any mail, any, if you have a shopping list for the person that you're caring for, super basic option that is super inexpensive. And if you're into sewing and crafting, you could probably fashion one yourself.
I just put a link to that do not forget
Awesome.
in the chat.
Thank you. I can't believe how simple it is, and it's like one of my favorite things. Environmental controls. So they used to, and they still probably do in many ways, make environmental controls of the super fancy variety. So just different ways to control your environment. Now, I feel they are so commonplace with your Google Assistants or your Alexas or whatever. So I know my home, I have a microwave that works with Alexa. I have my thermostat. I have lights, just a whole bunch of things. They even have a fire cube that works with your TV. So again, if you're a caregiver, these are things that can be helpful for people with disabilities to be able to do the things that they want to be able to do, but it could potentially be helping you with your body mechanics. So think of just if you've got maybe arthritis, if you're an older adult and you're caring for an older child or a younger child even, what are some ways that these environmental controls can help with the limitations you might experience from a little bit of arthritis, or having to bend over and just do those different things. So all the different ways that assistive technology can be helpful. There's assistive technology for communication. So if the person that you are helping has a communication device, or maybe it's as simple as a whiteboard that has pictures on it, just different ways for you to communicate with that individual. There's all kinds of things for bathing and dressing. Again, thinking of yourself as the caregiver, what's going to help you as you are assisting that individual with a disability, helping to get them dressed, but maybe with that overlap, you need something to help you get dressed. And we have this really cool thing. It's a button aid and zipper pull. So on one end is a wire loop and on the other end is a hook for the zipper, but it's a way for, it's a little tool that provides a wider grip and a way for you to button, like the button up shirts is what I think of. And then the Med Center monthly medication system is also something that I linked in the resource guide. Super helpful to keep all of your medications organized and available in a 1-month thing. Again, can help you as the caregiver, helping that individual that takes those medications, keep them all right together in 1 month. So you're only having to set that up once a month, or it can help you as someone that just might need a little bit of help with medication management. And then on this slide is pictured some different images of some of the different things that we've mentioned. So there's a drawing of a stovetop safety. This is one that I don't have linked, that I forgot about, so my apologies, but it's really cool. It's a device that can be used to, it shuts the stove off when there's no movement in front of the stove for a certain period of time. The Ring doorbell's another example of an environmental control, but if you are coming into a person's home and it's a way for you to communicate with that individual so they can get a visual of you, making sure that it's their caregiver coming in, and you can set different codes on that. It's just a really neat way. And I'm convinced that sometimes when they've come up with these types of really cool gadgets, they don't necessarily think about how it might be beneficial for folks with disabilities, but then it's amazing that it is. So, and then smartwatches, super great for monitoring different things, but if you, again, I have something else linked in the resource guide. If that person needs to get a hold of you more quickly because something's happened, it's right there on your wrist. You can get it instead of, if you're like me and constantly misplacing your phone, going, where is it? I hear it. I don't know where it is. It's buried in the couch, whatever. It's just it's a way to stay connected a little more easily. And then the Alexa Show, there's a video, but given the the experience with the video, I'll just go ahead and explain it. The Alexa shows are fabulous now. And think of you as a caregiver. And I'll use my grandmother as an example. She lives in Florida. She just turned 95. There's a whole bunch of family in Florida to come help her out when she needs, but her husband passed away in the fall. So now she is living by herself. So we got a couple of Alexa shows for her home. And she also just recently got a smartphone that she knows how to use the basics of, but she doesn't always carry her phone with her. So if we can't get a hold of grandma, then we are doing a video call with her so that we know that she's okay. And so she's not, and she's also hard of hearing. So she may not just hear her phone if she doesn't have it with her. So she has given us permission to drop in. That's a feature that you can set up with the Alexa shows. So she knows that if she's hearing us, and then she can see us too on the show. Like, hey, grandma, we're just checking on you. We didn't hear from you. We just tried calling. And generally it's because she doesn't have her phone on her. So, and to that same token, if she were to fall, she can then use her Alexa device to call one of us if she can't make it to a phone, and then we could call emergency personnel if needed. And then another picture on the slide is of liftwear, and this is to help someone that may experience mild to moderate tremors be able to feed themselves. So you as a caregiver, thinking again, what are some things that can be helpful to minimize some of the motions for your own body, and being concerned about your body mechanics, and what can provide someone with a little more independence and being able to feed themselves. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. AT for transportation, super important if you're going to be transporting folks. So there is AT for entering and exiting a vehicle, seatbelt use. I put in here thinking about public and paratransit, and that's paratransit is specific transportation for folks with disabilities who are unable to drive. And then images on this slide are of the handy bar, which is a device that helps get people in and out of a vehicle. It provides a little more stability. There's a seat belt grabber handle, sorry. One of my favorites, and you just kind of have to, what's great about our program is that you can try things out, right? So one of my favorites pictured is the swivel seat. And this swivels in a 360-degree fashion. It's a cushioned seat with a non-slid bottom. But you have to make sure that you get the right size for your vehicle. So they do make a little bit smaller of one, and then they make a larger one, but the larger one does not fit well in the bucket seats that kind of have the edges that raise up. So again, it's not that much in price, but you want to keep your money, right? So we encourage folks to reach out and try out the swivel seat, but not only in vehicles, but thinking of someone sitting at a kitchen table, it allows them to be able to move more freely if they have limited mobility in their lower extremities. And then there is an image of the car caddy, which is a nylon, how would I describe this? It's not a rope, but it ties or clips to a window, and it provides a little bit more stability, sort of providing that upward motion mobility to get out of a vehicle. All right, so just a quick discussion question of what has been your favorite assistive technology so far? And are there things that you could see yourself or someone you know using those pieces of AT, either as a caregiver, as a person with a disability? And then again, it's the white thought bubble in front of a pink background. I know I've mentioned my favorite pieces of AT throughout, thinking super low tech, of course, the do not forget door hanger, all the way to the little more complex but readily available Alexa devices. Those have been a game changer for me, and I love how they can help our family have access to my grandma and making sure that she is safe. All right, if no one has anything that they would like to share, we'll go ahead and move on. Recreation is super important for anyone. All work and no play is no fun, right? So as a caregiver, we have so many things available in our recreation for outdoor and indoor. So we have tabletop games. One of the really super cool things that I think that we have, I don't have it pictured on the slide, but it's a dice tower. So instead of holding dice in your hands, it's literally like a square or rectangular tower that you drop the dice down into. And so it rolls the dice and then it keeps them in this handy little tray at the end. So you're not having to chase dice all over the table. That's one of my favorite sort of low tech items that we have. And then of course, pictured here are some of the super fancier tech that we have. And those are the e-bikes, and the Firefly is pictured here. And that is something that, and it's very complex. I'm just going to throw that out there, and it doesn't work for all wheelchairs. However, it is an attachment that can turn a manual chair into a power chair. So it's pretty neat. And we do have that in our inventory along with the e-bikes. And then we have accessible gardening as a bullet point here. I know Sarah made mention to the bench. We have all kinds of tools in our inventory that are available for people to try. And even indoor gardening, we have a couple of different indoor gardening options if people want to try those out. Different sprayers. For hose nozzles, we have different rakes. We have all kinds of stuff for gardening. And then outdoor rec, if you like camping, hunting, fishing, birding, we have all those kinds of different AT for that kind of stuff for recreation. And crafting and crocheting, we have that too. So we have crochet hooks that have magnification. We have a adaptive handle that you can put onto a crochet. I can't even think of what it's a crochet tool. I can't think of what it's called right now, but it makes the hanging onto it, it makes it so it's easier if you have limited dexterity. So all kinds of cool things that we have. And then the image on this slide is of a man sitting in his wheelchair with the Firefly on front. And then the TerraTrike e-bike. And I wanted to put in here AT for infant and toddler care because many older adults are caring for younger children. And some of the really neat things that we have in our inventory. We have a 360 car seat that rotates, and the advertisement for the product says that it can be used from newborn up to 10 years of age. And so it has all of the convertibility between those life stages, but it literally rotates so that you as the caregiver helping that child get out or physically being the one to get the child out of the car seat. You're not having to contort your body as much because you can turn the car seat toward you. So, and there is AT for bathing. So we have I'm blanking on the name of it. I do have it linked in the resource guide. But it's a bathtub that has 3 different stages to it, and you can use it on a tabletop or in a bathtub. And for either option, it gives you ways to elevate it so you're not having to bend and stretch as much. Hand washing and diaper changing. Hand washing in our resource guide, something super simple is a Munchkin faucet extender, and we have these in our inventory. So if you are that older adult caring for a younger child and they are able to get to the sink by way of using a step stool, and then these faucet extenders literally just attach to the end of the faucet and make it so the child isn't having to reach as far to get to the water. So really simple adaptation that can be made. And then a reacher grabber for you as the caregiver, or you can often make a fun game out of it. We do also have reacher grabbers for children in our inventory. And it can just be fun, like, hey, pick this thing up off the floor that we just dropped, and then you get to use this fun tool to pick it up. Just some neat things like that. And then one of the things that I want to highlight, because it was on Shark Tank and we have it in our inventory, for the car seat or anything that has a 5-point harness, we do have the unbuckle knee, which is intended for caregivers. It's an attachment that you can put on a 5-point harness that makes it easier for you. So if you experience arthritis, or maybe you just simply have long nails, or whatever the case might be, it makes it so that you can unbuckle the car seat a little bit easier. I'm going to move on to the next slide. All right, so resources, where to go from here. So of course, please use us as a resource. And all the ways to connect with us are in that resource guide. There's also the Michigan Assistive Technology Loan Fund, and that's with our partners at the UCP of Michigan. And one of the questions I get asked is, because they see cerebral palsy in the name, you do not have to be someone that experiences cerebral palsy to interact with the services that they provide. But they have a lot of great, even if you don't end up going through a loan with them specific for assistive technology, they are a great resource for other types of funding that might be available through grants or different programs. So, and then there's the MI choice waiver programs that can often, if folks qualify, people can often get assistive technology covered through that service. Community mental health has waivers. And then certainly areas on agency are a great resource for getting connected. And then speaking with OT, so occupational therapists, physical therapists, rehabilitation engineers, and then different aging in place specialists. So there's that is a distinction. So if you are looking to, let's say you wanted your home remodeled for simply aging in place, or maybe you are a caregiver of an older adult or whatever it might be, you want to do some modifications to your home. Aging in place is a certification that some builders have. So if you really want to emphasize remodeling and making sure that different things are taken into consideration for aging in place, I would search using that terminology as well. And then the image on this slide is a blank signpost and next to a rural road with grassy fields. All right, so I just want to know what questions you might have. Is there something that we didn't cover that you can think of? There are some other things linked in our resource guide too. Erin, one of our newer assistive technology specialists, she uses a lot of assistive technology. She's a power chair user. And so she just thought of some things. One of the things I was going to talk about on the emergency preparedness slide that I forgot to mention, she has throughout her home quick and easy to use aerosol fire extinguishers. So if you are not able to get access to those just giant, like heavy, I think about, what do you do if there's a fire? I can't remember. Do you pull the pin? Do you do this? So it's an aerosol can that extinguishes a fire. So they're really great to have in the kitchen. They recommended having it on a boat in a dorm room. It's a really nice thing to have. So that is linked in the resource guide, as well as shower slides. So when Erin has her caregivers come over and they are helping transition to different bathroom things and using the shower, it's all of her helpers wear these shower slides so that they're not slipping and sliding all over the place. Something that you wouldn't necessarily think of as AT, but it's super helpful. Some other fancier things that not all people have access to, but really cool to think about anyway, are lifts. So there are lifts that attach to a ceiling. So again, thinking of you as the caregiver and those body mechanics, having access to like a Hoyer lift where it's going to be something that's going to assist you in lifting an individual. Thinking of maybe it's a hospital bed, but maybe it's also a sleep number bed that is available on the market that someone could purchase. So just many different things to think about. So hopefully this has piqued your interest. Certainly feel free to connect with us. And I'll give our 800 number again. That's 800-578-0280. And then all of the ways to connect with us are in that resource guide. So we encourage you to check that out. And then this is just a thank you slide. And it has my email, and that's kellie@mymdrc.org. And then this is just a fun little picture of some cats that are shoved in a box. There's one cat on top, and then there's kind of smushed kitties in the box because we realized we covered a lot of information in a little bit of time. So yeah. Any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself, type in the chat. Well, if no one has any questions, we thank you Marcy just typed in the chat. That link should go.
Yep, it's posted above. I'll post it one more time.
And if for some reason you can't access the resource guide, feel free to connect with me or Sarah. And we can get you access to that resource guide. You encourage folks to use us as a resource. Thank you everyone for joining. Enjoy this beautiful week of weather. Hopefully it's beautiful wherever you are in Michigan. I know in East Lansing it's going to be hot, but I'll take it. So thank you everyone.
Thank you.
And Sarah, if you are host, are you host?
I am. Hang on
Can
just
you
a second
stop
here.
recording?
Yep.
Thank you.